welcome to the program today, everyone. Today we are amazingly honored to be welcoming Amanda Scarborough. So she played for 4 years for Texas A&M, where she was Big 12 Freshman of the Year, Player of the Year. She was an All-American on and off the field, so incredibly important. She's had tons of other accolades. She does commentary for ESPN. She's given us tons of great videos on pitching. If you haven't seen some of her videos, you need to go to YouTube right now, and you need to look at some of them, and you need to check out the package deal. Now, here are some things we want to know from you, Amanda. So many things. Okay. But you first started playing softball at age 5. Your dad signed you up for lessons, and then started pitching when he volunteered you for the position at age 8. Do you think you would have found pitching if it hadn't been for him?
I really don't think that I would have found it. I know that it's hard to go back and think, what if? But I think that him just kind of volunteering me at that age, I didn't know that much about pitching. I didn't know that much about softball. I mean, you're 8. You have so many other things going on. So I'm glad that he kind of stepped up to the challenge. I mean, back in his heyday, he was a quarterback and he was a pitcher. So, like, he was, the person that was one of the leaders on the team and that was used to having the ball in his hands. So I think that maybe he's like, well, maybe my daughter can do it. And I'm an only child. So he's like, well, I only have one chance to do this. So he signed me up, and it's been pitching ever since then.
See, now, I did not know that your dad was a pitcher. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you think having that in your life has affected your desire to succeed in the position and has sort of affected the trajectory of your career?
I think that's a really big question, but I think that the relationship that I had with my dad, because of his past in athletics, I think it only helped him guide me and develop me to become the player and the person that I was. I have such a good relationship with him to where he didn't yell at me. He was so supportive. I actually liked, working with him a lot more than I did with my mom. I think that every little girl kind of has their one that they pick, or maybe they're going to butt heads with more. And for me, it was definitely more with my mom. My mom could have said the exact same thing that my dad said, but I would have been probably 90% chance more to listen to my dad than to my mom. And I just think that that's totally normal. But again, I think that it has to do with his past and, maybe our relationship that we built through even just watching sports and then developed to become a pitcher and have his background in athletics too.
So, I mean, how do you think, because it can be a very great or a very difficult relationship, I find, that pitchers have with their fathers, right? It can be opposite ends of the spectrum. So what are some things that you can say to dads out there or even moms out there that will help them to keep a healthy relationship with their pitcher?
Yeah, that's such a big one, because I really think that your relationship with your parents is going to make or break you as a pitcher. And I think that the ones that end up maybe not liking it as much or resenting their parents is all from the days of practicing and going to lessons. But I think that the biggest thing that my parents ever told me was that I didn't have to be a pitcher. I eventually, wanted to be. Of course, my dad signed me up, but it was never something that I absolutely 100% had to do. So it always gave me a choice. And I think that my parents were really good about that they would give me choices as a young child, to where I never felt backed into a corner. I never felt like I was doing things that I had to do because they wanted me to do it. So they were great about that and giving me a choice. And the biggest thing is just having a voice in what you want to do when you're a kid. And my parents did that from a young age. But then the other thing is, I don't ever remember getting yelled at from my dad or from my mom, ever. I mentioned that maybe my mom and I butted heads more, and that was probably just me more causing the butting of heads. It was not my mom, it was me. But they were always so supportive and kept a calm, just presence around me at all times, because as a pitcher, everything is going out of control at times during your lessons or at practice, and for sure in a game. And you need your parents to be just that stable support system for you, the ones that have your back no matter what, because really, I mean, you just want to be loved by them at the end of the day, whether you had a good game or a bad game. And I think that my parents were really good about that.
That is amazing advice. Parents out there, if you're not writing that down, you need to. Because, I mean, I think all of us as coaches have been there one time or another where you're at a game where where a parent is yelling at their child or berating the child to the point of like it's embarrassing to everyone around them as well. And I think you never see those kids stick with it because there's just exactly what you said, because exactly what you said.
Well, one more thing that I want to add to that is that I feel like a pitcher bases their success so much off of just simply balls and strikes. And that's so broad. Like, did you throw a ball on that pitch or did you throw a strike? Okay, well, is either a good pitch if you throw a strike or a bad pitch if you threw a ball? And there's so many other different forms of success as a pitcher that as a parent or as a coach, if you look deeper to find it, you're going to be more positive. You're not going to be as negative, and it's not going to be, pitching's not black and white. It's not, okay, you gave up a home run, that was a horrible pitch. That's not true. I could have thrown a great pitch in college and it could have gotten hit out of the park. So it's really unfair to a pitcher just to have success based on ball or strike. And I think that it's up to parents to be able to come up with different lessons and different ways to motivate their pitcher to find their own success on any given day. And I think too that it just takes it takes pressure off of a pitcher to say, okay, I threw a ball. Oh, that was probably a bad pitch. That's not always the case. It's up to the parents to go deeper, to find those lessons, and to learn more about pitching, honestly, to be able to translate to their pitcher and have that healthy relationship. And coaches too. Coaches are the same way.
That's so true. Yeah, it is very true, because you think, like, I mean, you could really throw a great pitch and the girl just gets a great hit at that point. But, I mean, it's true. Most of us don't look at it that way. It's really good to have that different level of perspective. But, I mean, I think, of course, the other element that we have to talk about is how hard we all have to work to be successful as a pitcher. I think most people would assume that someone like you who pitched at such an incredibly high level, that it just came very easy and very naturally right from the very beginning, that you were just like born this pitching Adonis, But you have said specifically that it was really hard work for you to become a successful pitcher, and it was exactly the same for me. What kind of practice routine did you use to make yourself so dominant at such an elite level?
The amount of just small drills that I used to do without a ball that were so monotonous, and quite frankly, when I was younger, I just got so tired of, are the drills that made me who I was 10 years from that point that I was doing them. I would get on a balance beam. I would even be on a balance beam in front of a mirror and go through each of the different positions that my coach would name for me. So like a lift position where you bring your knee up and your hands are about in front of like about shoulder height, and we push to open on the balance beam. We'd go all the way down to release and then follow through. And then not only I'd hit each of those positions on the balance beam without a ball, and then I would do them backwards in front of a mirror. Wow. So like just the muscle memory and the training that goes into developing like all the different muscles that have to fire when you're pitching, we covered those, and they were so boring when I was younger, and I remember just dreading doing them. But as a coach, if I could go back and coach myself, I would do the exact same thing, because they were such important drills, and especially using all of your senses with balance in front of a mirror. So you're having to see yourself and feel and having to fight gravity. I mean, all those things are so good to build your senses and then overall just build your body awareness as a pitcher. I would go back and do them 100 times over, especially the mirror work. I would pitch in front of a mirror, even without a balance beam at home, 100 pitches a night, and just work on something.
Yeah, I think the importance of drill work is very highly underestimated, and I feel that the kids that do the drill work see the best improvements overall. Like, it's pretty incredible. So how did you always make sure, though, that you got that quality practice, especially to push you through when it did seem a little bit more mundane or a little bit more boring?
Well, every week, my pitching coach gave me a homework sheet to do. So I feel like it was a way to hold me accountable. I think that everybody needs a way to hold themselves accountable. I mean, I don't think that that's just for pitchers. I think that's just for everyday life. Like now being an adult, you have to have a way or someone or something to hold you accountable. And for me, it was my pitching coach and that sheet of homework that I didn't want to go back to pitching lessons the next week and only have a 1 next to the number of times that I practiced. I wanted to be able to honestly put 3 or 4 times. Or if I did only have 1, maybe it's okay to have like the break weeks, the rest weeks. But when I'm like hot and heavy in the middle of like my training, I did not want to show back up to lessons and on my homework sheet only have a 1 or heaven forbid an even 0 next to the number of times that I practiced because I didn't want to let my coach down or my parents for that matter.
Yeah, especially when your parents are investing the time and the money and, and I'm sure you're practicing with your dad given his background.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important, that idea of like, you shouldn't feel like you have to practice because, dad says go out and practice. You want to do it because you want to get better and because you want to, make your coach see that like, okay, you have this great potential and everything. So important. I think this is like one of the most interesting parts about just your story in general, that you actually had some crazy parents tell your mom that you were no good at pitching and should probably stop. How did that affect you at the time, and then how did it affect you moving forward?
Well, luckily, my mom had enough sense not to share that information with me. So, I mean, that was important. But, I mean, I think that's a lesson in itself. Like, no mom, I don't think, should ever go up and tell their child. I think that somebody said that they shouldn't be pitching. Like, I just think that's such a private matter, like, between a mom and a dad, or for the mom just to keep it to herself. But I'm so happy that my mom didn't tell me, because I probably would have been sad. And I probably would have agreed, because I wasn't very good. But even funnier is that I ended up playing with that girl and her mom at Texas A&M. She was 1 year older than I was, so I played with her for a year, and then she ended up transferring to U of H. But I was around that same family and that same mom, whenever I was player of the year and freshman of the year in the same year, and I was out there pitching and playing with her daughter. So it was just really a full circle moment. We never let them live that down.
Karma!
Yeah. So
That's
funny.
But I kind of love that stuff. I feel like, when I was first starting pitching, I was so bad. And, people, of course, said a lot of, like, not great stuff about me. But then I loved playing those people later and been like, how about now?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I guess kind of nasty, but, like, we all have that sort of competitive drive in us. You know what I mean? Like, where, okay, you're going to say stuff, but then you better really mean it, because I'm going to face you again.
I think to keep in perspective that it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you're not going to go from the number 4 pitcher on the team like I was to then a year later being the number 1. I mean, I went from bad to not as bad to average to kind of good to very good. It's not like it happened in 1 week even. I mean, it's definitely going to happen over time if you put in the work from the very beginning and you continue to build on what you have. And eventually, I just know it. Your body is going to come around. Your mental game is going to come around. Everything ends up paying off for that word. It's just karma. The harder that you work, the more that it pays off for you. I mean, it's just going to balance out.
Yes, I love that. I love that whole idea of, like, there's no failure unless you quit trying.
Yeah.
That's so important. I don't know how many people know this, because you have such a mound presence and you're just, like, you deliver the ball so incredibly, but you're only 5'5". So that makes you nearly a foot shorter than Monica Abbott, just so you guys have this in perspective. How has that affected your career, and what can you say to the pitchers out there who want to become elite but are average height?
I got lucky because nobody really pointed that out whenever I was growing up, that I was a little bit shorter. And, even now, I think that whenever I meet people who maybe saw the video that you were talking about, the power drive video, or they come to our package deal clinics and they come to the pitching session, they're very surprised from seeing me just maybe online through the YouTube videos and maybe even on TV on ESPN, but they're very surprised whenever they see me and they're like, this is it? I mean, I'm the shortest one at the package deal by 4 or 5 inches. We have some 6 foot tall people that are there too, but I just kind of developed into motivation for these younger pitchers who are being told that they're too small or that they're not big enough or they're never going to be good enough. And I just hate to hear that, because I don't think that it should be about your size. It shouldn't be about your size. It should be about how hard you're working and how much time that you actually want to be able to put into your craft. And yeah, you're going to have to work harder, honestly, than probably a 6'2" pitcher or 6 foot pitcher, but it's going to make you so much better in the long run as a person, and the work ethic that you're going to develop is just, and the mindset of just being a bulldog and a fighter is something that you just cannot take away and you can't recreate unless you've experienced it yourself. And that's the biggest thing I would tell them is just, you got to keep fighting. If you want to do it, go do it. Quit listening to people. It's like that person that told my mom that I was never going to make it. I mean, there's always going to be naysayers out there, but if you want to do something, you absolutely can go and do it.
And I think very few people know this, but Lisa Fernandez also, probably around the 5'5" range, and Casey Clark too. You know, not super, super tall. But just for people out there who don't know what the package deal is, can you tell them just a little bit about that?
Yeah, the package deal is a group of, there's 4 of us. 2 went to UCLA and 1 played at Washington, and then myself. It's Jen Schroeder and Katie Schroeder. They're sisters. They're the ones who went to UCLA, and then Morgan Stewart went to Washington. And we travel all over the entire country doing clinics, not just Texas where I am, not just California. And we've been to Oregon, Idaho, Florida, up near you in New York. We went to Syracuse recently. I mean, all over. And we each have our specialty. So Jen is our lead catching instructor, Morgan is our lead defense instructor, Katie is our lead hitting instructor, and I'm the lead pitching instructor. So we'll travel all over and do clinics that have sessions inside of them. And yes, we're teaching about the physical mechanics about each of those hitting, defense, catching, pitching, but really it's sprinkled with motivation and inspiration and lessons through softball of learning the mechanics and the physical part. That's important, but more so learning the mindset that goes in behind it of how to make adjustments, about the things that you should be thinking, about the things that you should control. And that's the biggest, I think, difference maker that we see when girls leave our clinics is that they're just inspired, they're excited, they can't wait to go and bring these lessons to their teams to make their teams better. So we're really lucky to get to do what we get to do. We're going to Miami and Pensacola next weekend, and we'll just have a Texas tour in November as well. So, I mean, we did 50 clinics last year, and we'll probably hit around the same number this year. A really, really cool thing the package deal is.
That is amazing. And most of you guys do ask about regular clinics. So these would obviously be wonderful to attend. And the website for that, just so people can check up for near events?
Yeah, is packagedeal.com. And then also on Facebook and Instagram, you can follow us at The Package Deal. And I think the cool thing about following us too is that we are always putting up drills for free. I mean, like at every single clinic, we're live tweeting, live Facebooking, doing something just to put a lot of information out there because that's exactly what people want. And when you follow us, I mean, we just put up about everything about softball. So it's not just clinics. It's definitely more of a connection that's outside of the clinics as well, and a relationship that we're building with the softball community.
Yeah, and I think that's so great because there is a ton of misinformation out there, I find, especially about pitching. Like if you Google how to throw a curveball on YouTube, I've seen some stuff that has made me like throw up in my mouth a little. So like to know that such experts are out there, showing you how to do it, that's kind of something that people need to prioritize. That you need to make sure you wouldn't go to, a doctor who has never performed a successful surgery before. So I don't know why people sometimes are taking advice from instructors who haven't produced good pitchers in the past or haven't played at a higher level. It's really important to get good source for your materials there. because it's your body and your pitching career we're talking about here. It's very, very important. So look that up, everyone. So you've probably had a lot of different coaches over the years, but what coach has influenced you the most and why?
I would say the one that I was talking about that I would hold myself accountable to bring my homework back to. And her name was Jill Rischel, and she was my pitching coach, and her husband was my hitting coach. But I just, the way that she taught me pitching, I can never go back and change or thank her enough for, or even be able to recreate. I mean, I just feel like I found such a special coach in her that gave me the foundation that I have to be able to lead to all of my success. And I mean, I've had so many, I appreciate all my coaches in different ways, but when I think about the success that I've had and just the body awareness and feel that I had as a pitcher, I go back to her every single time. Her drills, her homework, her accountability, and the way that she got me just to feel and understand my body was something I could never repay her for, because it's still paying off right now.
That's I love to hear that. Like, and you probably have you only ever worked with one pitching coach? Because I think that's another question that a lot of people ask. It's like, if I only see one person, what if I see different people and so on?
I really had three. I had one that kind of like started me out, that my dad like brought me to lessons for, that I was telling you about, and it was like, I don't think that we tried it out for a little bit, and we could just tell that that wasn't going to work for how my body was going to work, I guess. And then we found Jill. And then I had another one in high school named Ken Hazelwood. He's around the Houston area in Texas. And so really I went to three. But I think that in regards to visiting different pitching coaches, I like the idea of mixing it up, because I think that everybody has different strengths. And that's not just with pitching, that's in life. Everybody's going to have different ways to communicate things and get through to pitchers. So the way that I was able to get what I needed out of Jill, I went to her for probably 4 or 5 years, and then went to Ken in high school. He brought a different aspect to my game that was really more about velocity and speed and power and aggression, whereas Jill was more mechanics and being meticulous, and everything had a place and a perfect spot. It was such a good mixture. But I think that it is good to go and visit a pitching coach. I know that you get such a good relationship with your pitching coach when you're with her or him for for multiple years. But I don't think that it's bad at all just to go out and visit somebody else and just be able to learn and try new things. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I try new foods all the time, and I might not have liked it 7 years ago, but now like all of a sudden it might be in every single meal that I want to have. So like, you just change, you develop, and you're going to want different things out of life and out of pitching.
I love that idea of going to like a regular instructor too, and then going to something like the package deal or like Rise Ball, or like I also really like Ken Erickson or like USF and everything like that, and going and getting feedback from these people who have coached at a very high level too, and trying to take some of that back with you. So I do think it's important to get feedback from different areas, because I think the other problem I see people run into is, they go to college and they've only ever been coached by one person, and then the way that their college coach works with them, they don't really understand and have a hard time dealing. So I think that's a really great point that you made. How do you think the softball environment in Texas is different than it is in the rest of the country? Because I feel like it's a totally different world down there.
Really? I think that in places like Florida, Texas, Arizona, and California, it's the weather. I think it totally has to do with the weather. In Texas, there's no indoor, there's indoor facilities to like take lessons, but there's not like a bubble where you'll go and play games and have to be inside of that same bubble for 2 or 3 months in the winter. I mean, you just get to be outside as much as possible. There are very few days that you aren't able to get outside. So I totally think that it just has to do with the climate. I really do. And the amount that you get to practice, and really the experience of being out on the field outside in different conditions versus in a facility or a bubble. Like, all the conditions are very perfect. The turf is perfect, and you don't get to play as many like live games. So I think that that's a big part of what it has to do with.
My mentor, Rob Cruz, is one of my mentors. I mentor by a lot of people.
I know Rob. Yeah.
He's wonderful, right? He has said he feels like the environments are different in California and Texas a little bit because you see people in a high school that you played against, or sometimes in your own high school, or someone you know going to these amazing schools, and you say to yourself, wow, that's a possibility. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, seeing I think people from Texas and California, and I've shadowed out at Stanford and all this other sort of stuff. I feel like there's a different mindset. I definitely feel like there's more aggressiveness, more confidence, more like noun presence. You know what I mean? And I think that's something. It's hard to figure out exactly where it comes from.
I think it all comes back from weather and reps. I mean, we get to play games literally 12 months a year if you wanted to. There might be 2 weeks out of there that you can't because it's too cold or it's sleeting or something. But like the more experience that you get, the more reps that you get, the more confident you're going to get. And then you make others around you better as well because you're pushing them. But if you're inside and there's not, it's so hard to live in a bubble versus being outside and like getting to play games, which can be our most important form of reps because it gets you that game time pressure experience. It's just going to give you more confidence to go out all the time, So I think that that's a big reason why. I think that there is a reason why the warmer states are usually better at softball. Yeah. Not trying to be rude to the other states. That's just, notoriously having better teams that make it. There's definitely good teams out there. I don't want to take anything away from that, but just, on a higher number of teams that come from each state.
Yes, I totally agree. What do you think your biggest failure has been as a pitcher, and how have you learned from that?
I think that my biggest failure is probably to not really develop a very good off-speed pitch. I have to just be honest and come right out and say it. I just didn't have a great one. Are you there?
I am. Oh, I probably froze.
Yeah, okay. If you're there. Okay. Was developing not a very good off-speed pitch, and I feel like that's made me such a better coach because now I'm adamant about it. Like, I mean, just get down to it, find an off-speed pitch that you can throw, work extremely hard at it, and really there's just no substitution for a good off-speed pitch. And I'm bummed that I didn't have a great one. I mean, again, everybody has their strengths and has their weaknesses, but if I could go back and really look at maybe what would have been my biggest failure, I would have said just not having an off-speed pitch that I could throw on any count in any situation because it really would have helped me.
I think that's a problem a lot of people have, though, because it's kind of amazing. Most of the time, changeup is the first pitch you learn, right? But I think it's the hardest for a lot of people to master. Interesting thought.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, you've had some unbelievable successes in your career. Does anything in particular stand out to you as your favorite or the most meaningful?
Of moments or things that I learned? Which one?
Oh, God, tough question. You pick.
Just pick?
Yep.
I'm going to go, I'll go 2 different ways then. Most meaningful or a big part that I learned was that I couldn't be exactly the same from year to year. I had a really good freshman year. My sophomore year was not nearly as good. It was probably only half of what I did my freshman year. And it was really because I didn't reinvent myself. I thought that I could just go out, kind of rest on my laurels and be the same pitcher that I was the year before. And that it just doesn't work out. People know you. They understand what you throw. There's scouting reports on you. And I hit too, and the same thing happened to me as a hitter. My batting average dropped about 100 points from like 400 to 300. So just one of the most meaningful lessons that I learned was just that you have to find a way to be better and grow every single year, no matter what the success was that you had the year before. My favorite moment, just being out on the field, was probably my junior year. We played Florida in super regionals. We were at home in College Station, and we beat them to go to the Women's College World Series, and it came down to the third game. We had to play the best 2 out of 3 to get there, and I don't know, there's something about the intenseness and the magnitude of a game to where you throw the final out and get to celebrate with your team that just cannot be duplicated. And it was so awesome. Our team hadn't been to the World Series, our school hadn't been to the World Series since like the 80s, I think, and we were finally able to get back. And I remember that moment as if it happened just like yesterday. I remember the pitch, I remember who was up to bat, I remember where the ball went, and then of course I remember the celebration to be able to get there. But it was so awesome, and that's definitely always one that comes to the forefront of my mind whenever I talk about favorite moments.
I just got chills. Did anyone else out there get chills?
I did too. I just even thinking about it again, I did too.
As a pitcher, that's like what you dream about, number one.
Yeah.
But if you pitched at a high
to add icing on the cake was that I pitched game 1, which was like on a Friday night, and then Saturday for game 2, I didn't start, but I came in relief, and I ended up giving up a home run that lost the game for us. So then I started game 3 through the entire game 3. There was a doubleheader. And then I got the win. So it was just in itself, a cool little like comeback story that I did give up that home run, then got the start, and then got the complete game win to be able to go.
Oh, it was
intense.
That's just like chills all over. That's just so amazing. But now, I'm sure a lot of people are looking at you now and recognizing your gorgeous face from ESPN. So how do you feel like coaching and doing ESPN commentary has changed your perspective on the game?
I love doing the ESPN games because these coaches the college coaches are such fast learners. The game is evolving, it's changing, it's developing. I am learning from them all the time about strategy, about mechanics, about how they're talking to their team and leading their team, and it's so cool. I mean, gosh, our game is changing so fast, and if you don't know that it's changing, you need to pay a little bit more attention because everything about it is changing, and really I think that it's because of the media exposure that it's getting from games that are online on ESPN3 to the Pac-12 network has coverage, the SEC network, to ESPN covering every game of the postseason. I mean, there's just so much softball on TV, and that's really what is changing our game, in my opinion, because now a pitcher is being scouted harder. Now a hitter has more footage on her to where a pitcher can go and study her and know exactly where to throw her at her weakness. And that in itself is totally changing our game from the aspect of a pitcher, from the aspect of a hitter, but then also from the mental standpoint of how to recover from that failure, how to be an All-American pitcher but give up 3 home runs in a game because a team just has your number because of all the film that they watched. So overall, it's crazy how much our game is developing because of the media, but I really think that it's making us better and it's making us bigger and stronger.
I love that. I totally agree. And actually, I was going to ask you where you see softball and pitching going over the next few years, especially the professional league, because, you know, our big thing in our sport seems to be the College World Series, but we don't see a lot of the professional stuff on television. But now Monica Abbott has that first $1 million contract. I mean, where do you see this all going now?
I do think that it's getting bigger. I do. It's hard to see the growth in it because I do feel like the NPF is a little bit hidden, but it's not as hidden as it was 5 or 6 years ago. I think that you're seeing more coverage of it. Their games are on CBS Network or CBS Sports Network. They stream those games online. You're seeing more of the college girls go to get drafted and then also to play in the NPF, and then the number of teams is growing, which is also huge. So just the exposure with everything is growing. I do think that the college game is growing at a more rapid rate, which may, in return, make the NPF feel like it's growing at a slower rate because you're just comparing it to what you know, but it's definitely growing, which is great for a sport, of course. And I think that you're seeing more people be invested in it and definitely interested in what's going on and who's playing.
Yeah, I think this is the most exciting time we've had in softball so far. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You have had 2 devastating injuries over the course of your career. How do you think, we can work to minimize injuries in young pitchers now, and how have these injuries changed your life?
I think to minimize it, it's all about letting them have good communication with you about what's going on with their body. But in return, the player has to be trustworthy and not just think, I have a scratch on my finger, I can't play today. I think that it works both ways. It's a two-way street. But the most important part to me and all of my injuries was just to find answers. Okay, this pain is not going away. I'm trying to play through it, but it's still just there. Should I go see another doctor? Should I get a second opinion and really get down to like the nitty gritty of what's going on? But I mean, my first injury, I got hit with a line drive, which I was playing first base. I was at practice my freshman year. So like you can't really prevent that one. I mean, that's just going to happen unless, I know that face masks are becoming more common, but back then, like nobody wore face mask at all. I mean, it just wasn't a thing. And then the other one that I had too was kind of a freak injury as well. That was just kind of me, a foot injury. But I think the most important ones that you can try to prevent are more so the arm injuries and being able to take care of your arm and strengthen your shoulder and your back muscles to where you're not trying to rehab the injury whenever it happens, that you're actually trying to prevent it. And actually with the package deal, we partnered with a company called Crossover Symmetry that has medically researched workouts that we absolutely love. It's a great system and an awesome program. Crossover Symmetry, you can find it on our website and our shop. But we love that because it's just trying to prevent as many arm injuries as possible because, I mean, if you're hurt, you're not being able to play the game that you love, unfortunately, and there's actually ways to be able to prevent it.
Yep, that's so important. The idea of prehab now, I think, is something that most people don't address that until it's too late. But there are really, really good, important things that you can do to really minimize that risk of getting hurt down the road. Simple stuff like, you eat, you foam roll, and, you take good care and you keep track of your pitch counts. And, we could talk about this forever probably, but that's something that people need to look into now. If you want to be a good pitcher and you want a career that has some longevity, you must start looking into prehab now. That's so important. I think one of the favorite things that I have that you say, though, is that pitchers need to pursue perfection, but know that it is truly unattainable. I love that so much. Can you tell our pitchers out there how they can work to achieve this ideal state?
I think that we all are perfectionists as a pitcher, and I think it goes back to you're either throwing a ball or a strike, and that's either failure or success. So every time that you throw a pitch, you're trying to be perfect at it, which in your mind, perfection is throwing a strike, and you're not going to throw 100% strike. So at lessons, at practice, giving yourself a little bit of wiggle room, that it's okay not to be perfect, that you're still getting better. And it all starts to me with the pitching coaches and the team's coaches, and also more importantly, just the parents. I mean, every single person in this world is perfectly imperfect. And I think that that's what makes life a little bit interesting because we're all going to have our setbacks. We're all going to have our imperfections that make us maybe a little bit weaker in our mind. But those are the things that we work harder at. And you work hard to strive to that perfection. You're never going to attain it, but you always work towards it. And it's like the journey of working towards it that really matters most.
Yes. And I love, it's the same as one of my favorite quotes. The closest we can get to perfection is constant improvement.
I love that.
Keep bettering yourself. That's what's going to take you to a whole nother level. I love that.
Yeah.
So What you are obviously incredibly strong pitcher mentally. I mean, especially after your freshman year coming back after getting hit with a line drive. I mean, I'm sorry, it wasn't a line drive, but in practice.
Yeah.
But some people, I feel like that's career ending for them because they get terrified of the ball. But obviously that just sort of pushed you onward. What are some things you can say about addressing the mental component of pitching?
I think that you just have to get back out there if you have gotten physically hit by something like that, or maybe your mental scar is that you had a home run hit off of you in the last inning and it lost the game for you. But I think that getting back out there is so important, and just getting over it. Like, the more that it's not going to be comfortable the next time that you get back out there, and that's totally normal. It might not even be comfortable the next 5 times that you go, but I bet the 5th time compared to the first time you went back out there feels better, feels more comfortable when you compare it. And I think that small improvement, that small growth is what you kind of lean on and you try to feel and remember, so the next time, the next 5 times after that even, you feel better. And before you know it, you're not thinking about it as much. I think that mental stuff never really goes away. I just think that it gets better. So whether you were hit by a line drive and that might be scary, or whether you're scared of making a mistake, I don't think that it ever truly 100% goes away. I just think that you figure out ways that you personally can deal with it and learn to feel it and know that it's okay to feel it. But at the end of the day, anything that you felt or gone through, some other pitcher out there has been through it before. And I think to know you're not alone is such a feeling of safety, and makes you feel a little bit better, that you just end up being able to work through it. And remember that you're not alone in anything that you do, whether it's what you're feeling as a pitcher, or you're actually out there on the field and you have 8 people or 7 people back behind you, 1 in front of you, who are there to support you and help you.
I love that idea of, like, you're just kind of like allowing yourself to push through as it keeps getting kind of better and better and better.
But you do have to allow it.
Yeah.
There's such a fine line between fighting it and feeling it and just kind of going with it and saying that you're just going to work through it. It's such a fine line.
To me, I think that makes me think of how, a grain of sand gets into, is it an oyster, right? And then it eventually becomes a pearl. Like you're taking something that would have otherwise hurt you, but now because you've built on it layer by layer and it's just gotten better piece by piece, now it's become this beautiful thing for you that's kind of put you above, the competition, which that's a great way of putting it. Like, I just have never heard it put that way before, but I think that's beautiful. Like, so nice.
It's true.
So nice. What are your thoughts about weight training and conditioning?
For conditioning, I've always liked the idea of agility, quick movements. I know in college we never got to do long distance because long distance makes you slower. It's not parallel to how our sport moves. If you think about it, it's 60 feet as fast as you can and then rest. It's maybe 120 feet if you're hitting a double. And then you get to rest. It's one pitch with the most explosiveness, and then you rest. So in terms of conditioning, I love short bursts, sprints, agility, anything where you're going from like a bent position to an extended position. An example of that would just be like squat jumps or lunge jumps or box jumps. Anything that has an explosive movement is how I would suggest training, as well as doing sprints. And maybe if you do want to do conditioning, do like a 200-yard I don't want to say sprint because you're not going to go as hard as you can for that 200 yards, but 200-yard hard jog and do it 10 times with a minute rest in between or something like that. But don't go at like 2 miles, 3 miles at a time, because that's not indicative of how our sport is played, because it's short, quick burst. Weight training, I didn't even really start to get into until college. And during that time, as us pitching staffs, the pitchers on our team did the exact same workouts that the rest of our team did. So I'm probably, I don't really have a true opinion of like a pitcher should do a different workout or they shouldn't, because that's not what I did, and I didn't get injured. I didn't get hurt. That's not my experience. I like to just talk about my experiences, and because everybody's going to be built differently. But I would say just to be careful, especially at a younger age, is my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, I do find that sometimes kids want to start very young, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't know that. Your growth plates a lot of the time are still very open at that point, so you have to be very careful with the kind of weights you do. Which is why we literally just did a couple of high intensity interval classes involving like box jumps and things like that. I like that sort of stuff because it's exactly what you said, just like how we pitch. But again, it's not like you're throwing 100 pounds on there and saying, okay, now get up. So I love that. Guys, put a star next to exactly what Amanda just said, because you do want to be very careful with weights at a young age. But we need some sort of like high intensity intervals to kind of get us a little bit more explosive, a little bit more aggressive. I think a super, super important component of your career is that you are an academic All-American. Academic All-American, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, in addition to being an All-American on the field. So I don't think this is emphasized nearly enough, especially for girls who want to play in college. What can you say to girls about their focus on their academics while they are engaging in sport?
You just got to find time. I mean, the bottom line is whether it's in a car ride to or from practice, or you get home from practice and you have to stay up an hour or two later than what you normally might have, you have to find time for school. And we all have the same amount of hours in a day, and there are people who have gotten it done. So again, you're not alone in being the person that has to put in more work than probably some of the other boys and girls that you go to school with, but you absolutely have to find the time. And I know that for me personally, school did not come easy to where I could just learn a concept and then go and puke it out on a test. I had to study. I had to learn it. I had to take notes. I had to rewrite my notes. So I had to put in, I want to say, a little bit more time than maybe even some of my friends did, who might have had a photographic memory and could just read something once and then go and answer multiple choice questions. And that was not me at all. So find the time, understand how you learn, and also don't be afraid to ask for help, because I know that there were times that I would, go in after school and maybe ask for help from my teachers, or hire a tutor at a subject that I was really not good at, or maybe, a topic that I wasn't good at. And I know that really helped a lot too, because it made me feel like I had more tools in to go and take my test and try to ace it.
Yep, and see, I think that's another thing that people would just assume, like, okay, well, she's just naturally smart, and that's how she's an academic All-American. This is all hard work, ladies. This is all time investment. We're not talking about, just like you had said, a photographic memory or anything like that. And I think a point that a lot of young girls tend to miss is like, hey, you know what? If your GPA is not where it needs to be and your standardized test scores are not where they need to be, then that damages your chances of being recruited as well. That is, especially now with the recruiting environment becoming so much more competitive, I think you have to really say, if two pitchers are pretty much at equal skill level and one has a 2.0 GPA and the other has a 3.8, I think, the coach's choice will be very clear there. Really important, the academic element. And obviously, guys, you can see how successful that has helped Amanda become in life. So really, really pay attention to that here. That's great advice. What advice do you feel like you want to give pitchers out there who really want to play at the highest level that they possibly can?
I say the biggest piece of advice is just to keep your options open. I know that you probably, and this is everybody, you have that one dream school that you want to go to. Maybe it's Florida. Maybe it's Alabama. Maybe it's Oklahoma. I mean, they just got done winning a national championship. Who wouldn't want to play there? And I think that that's great to have that one dream school, and that, you know, it can push you. And but I don't think to make everything about that one dream school. And if I can't go there, then I don't want to play, or that then I'm a failure if I don't get to my dream school. You just have to keep everything in perspective. I mean, there might be 2 pitchers that go to that dream school every single year. Maybe 1, maybe none. Maybe they're not even taking anybody the year that you graduate. So have other options. Actually go out and research different schools and keep your options open, because you never know. Maybe it's a school that you've never heard of before that is recruiting you. But you go and take a visit and learn more about them, and it's a perfect fit for you, because there truly is a perfect fit for everybody. And it might not be one of the biggest schools that you see on TV, but it could be one of the smaller schools, and you're still going to have an awesome time playing softball, because if you want to do it, you can find a good fit, and you can find an awesome time, because it's happening every single year. There are girls out there who maybe didn't go to their #1 pick that are going to, there's a lot of girls out there probably that happens to, but they still go and have a great time getting to play at the next level.
I think that's just wonderful advice, guys, because, I mean, I think a lot of people have ended up going to schools they have not anticipated going to, and have been very, very happy at those locations. And then, you know, on the flip side of that, some people have said, you know, oh, this is my dream school, and end up going there, and it's really not what they expect, you know. So you have to really research from an academic standpoint as well. Make sure that everything's a good fit. It's really, really super important. This has just been like completely amazing. I mean, to everybody who's watching out there, I mean, this should be something that sort of changes the trajectory of your pitching career right here, just listening to Amanda. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to our young pitchers out there?
If you love it, keep doing it. And honestly, if you don't, if you feel like you're being pressured to do it, then don't do it. Go find something else. But I truly feel like to be a great pitcher, or whatever is the passion that you find, maybe it's to be a shortstop, you've got to give your all to it. But really, you just got to want to do it. Because us pitchers are going to work harder than anybody. We have to work on pitching more. We have to work on, also hitting and taking ground balls and school. There's a lot to balance. But I'm absolutely convinced that if you want to do it, if you really want to do something, then you should and you can do it. But then I'm also convinced that if you really don't all the way want to do something, then you're not going to enjoy it as much, and you're kind of wasting your time, because you're missing out on something that maybe you would be that passionate about to find.
Passion is the key there. That's so, so important. Will you please give us your website again? So that everybody, get your pens out, people. If you don't have them already.
My website, and I blog a lot. That's mainly what's on my website. I like to write. There's probably 80 plus blogs on there that you can go and look through. It has to anything to do with being a loyal teammate, to why pitchers are really cool, to how to overcome injuries. But it's Amanda-Scarborough.com. And then I'm also on Facebook. Amanda Scarborough Softball Lessons and Clinics, and then also Instagram, Amanda Scarborough. You can find me on there. And then, of course, go and follow the package deal as well. There's all kinds of more information on there. I mean, just because if you found me and you didn't know about me before, oh my gosh, if you go to my sites plus the package deal one, you're good for like a year, maybe even 2 years worth of learning softball and drills and following us.
That's so awesome, and thank you so, so much.